Waiting in Eden. Before the world whispered, before the wind learned its song, there was silence. A quiet so deep, it pressed against the chest, and you could almost hear the heartbeat of God himself. The man walked alone. He wandered in a garden too vast to name, where every tree bowed its head, and every river knew its path. Yet, even amidst the perfection, a space lingered. A hollow that no bird, no bloom, no morning sun could fill. God paused. He looked at the man, and his eyes held a question that had no answer yet. It was not loneliness of absence, but incompleteness. The whisper that told a story of what was missing. Not good, God said. Not the garden, not the rivers, not the stars. But the man, alone, walking with eyes that sought something he could not name. And so, a plan was drawn. A sculptor at work. A divine architect bending time and flesh. Creating something the man would not just see, but feel. And from his hands, he drew a woman. Not from the dust. Not from the earth. But from the man himself. A mirror of bone and breath. A reflection of what had been asleep inside him. Bone of my bone. Flesh of my flesh, God whispered in creation's quiet cathedral. And she appeared. Every curve and line intentional. Every breath synchronized with the rhythm of the man's soul. She was not an accident. She was the crescendo before the symphony. The answer to a question he had not dared to ask. The moment the rib left its cage, something stirred in him, something primal. Something sacred, that said, "This is mine. Not mine to own, but mine to know, to cherish, to walk beside." Her eyes, bright as dawn, holds the reflection of God's intent. Union. Harmony. Love unspoiled. And when he saw her, the man did not speak. Words would have failed. Language would have fallen short. Instead, his chest swelled with recognition. And his soul whispered, "This is, I am home." And then, the moment came. Not with trumpets, not with a chorus of angels, but in a glance, in the brush of a hand. In the shared silence between two hearts that finally remembered how to beat together. God walked among them. And yet, he stepped back. Because some things must be discovered, not commanded. The union of man and woman. The awakening of love. Is holy, yes. But also mysterious. A dance of souls before the eyes of eternity. She smiled, and it was a sunrise in human form. He reached, not to claim, not to conquer, but to meet the depth of God's design. Drawn into living flesh. Naked and unashamed, the scripture would say. And truly, they were. Not because the world had not yet tried to shame them, but because God had written their value, their worth, their identity, before the first fear could touch them. And so, the garden held its breath. Rivers paused mid-flow. Trees leaned closer as if to listen. For the first time, man and woman did not see each other as separate beings, but as a single story unfolding. A story God had begun, before time had its name. There is a sound that the world has never captured. A whisper that lives in the space between two souls. It is the sound of recognition, of longing finally met, of the pulse of creation echoing in a human chest. The man looked at her again. And now he understood the quiet in his own heart. It had been calling her name even before he knew it. Every step he had taken, every tree he had admired, every star he had traced with his gaze, was preparing him for this moment, for this encounter, where flesh and spirit met without fear. God did not rush them. There was no hurry in love like this. For love, when pure, is patient. It waits in stillness, and yet it ignites the world with fire unseen. They spoke without speaking. A glance, a tilt of the head, a shared breath. And the garden itself seemed to lean in. Curious, reverent, awed. She was a gift, yes. But also a revelation. Every gesture, every heartbeat. A story God had written long before the universe had finished humming its first note. And then came the walking. The learning to move together without collision. The rhythm of steps that matched. The harmony of bodies that belonged to each other by divine design. He learned patience. Not the impatience of desire, but the deep, slow patience of knowing that some things cannot be rushed. She learned trust. Not the fragile trust the world demands, but the kind of trust that blooms when you feel safe. Because God Himself is watching over the bond He created. They laughed together. Not because the world would approve. Not because they had to perform. But because laughter is the language of Eden. A language lost after the fall, but remembered in the first glances of human hearts. And yet, it was more than joy. It was understanding. A realization that two souls, created to complement, could indeed mirror each other's strengths and heal each other's weaknesses. The garden bore witness to a love unspoiled. A union that had no shadow of shame. No hint of comparison. No whisper of inadequacy. This was completeness. Not the completeness that comes from possessing, but the completeness that comes from recognizing a hand already extended. A rib already removed. A soul already designed to meet yours. And God said, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Do you hear that? Not advice. Not suggestion. But a decree from the author of all that is. A blueprint. A design for intimacy, for union, for love. And they became one. Not in mechanics, not in ritual, but in spirit. In breath. In shared heartbeat. She rested against him. And he rested against her. And for a moment, eternity paused. To watch what God had made. Naked. Unashamed. Whole. There was no fear. No expectation. No pretense. Only the raw truth of connection. Of bodies and souls aligned in purpose. The first touch was a sermon. The first embrace, a revelation. Every heartbeat a psalm. Every glance a scripture. Every breath a prayer whispered in the presence of God Himself. And they learned, even in silence, that intimacy is not about possession, but about recognition. About knowing a soul is made to complete yours. And honoring that design with reverence. The sun rose, and they walked together, not in fear, not in duty, but in wonder. Every leaf shimmered as though it too recognized the first union of hearts. Every river bend reflected the miracle of connection. A truth too profound for words. They were created for each other. Yet also, each was complete in the design God had given them. He did not seek to own her. She did not seek to control him. And in that freedom, in the sacred balance of give and receive, they discovered the purest form of love. The kind that nourishes, that uplifts, that whispers, "I am here, wholly for you, and yet I am whole myself." God walked among them, sometimes unseen, sometimes a shadow brushing against their steps, reminding them that love is not merely human. It is divine, etched into flesh before time began. And the man said, softly, "You were made for me." And she replied, "And you were made for me." It was not a claim. It was recognition. A covenant before spoken vows. Before the world could twist it, before shame could touch it. Love existed, unspoiled. The garden had rules. But not the rules of law, it was a blueprint. A design, etched in every stem, every stone, every breath. They learned that unity is more than proximity. It is alignment of hearts, respect of spirit, acknowledgement of the sacred rhythm God intended. They rested beneath the trees. And in that rest, they understood. To become one flesh is not just to touch, but to honor, to nurture, to allow the other to flourish while standing firm in your own being. There were no mirrors in Eden, yet they saw themselves perfectly in each other. Every gesture, every glance, every unspoken thought revealed truth. They laughed, they worked, they wandered. And in every moment, the blueprint of God whispered. Love first. Respect always. Cherish without fear. Walk in my design, and you will not stumble. It was a pattern the world would forget. Yet it remained, waiting to be remembered by those who would listen. Those who would slow their steps and hear the whispers of creation. Those who would honor the sacred bond before corruption. Naked. Not in shame. Not in fear. Not in the imitation of a world that calls value something other than divine intention. They were naked in truth. Naked in vulnerability. Naked in recognition of each other's souls. And in that nakedness, they were clothed in God's presence. She leaned against him, and he held her. Not because of desire, but because of understanding. A grasping that did not possess. A holding that did not consume. The world would call it innocence. But it was more than that. It was reverence. It was awareness. It was knowing, deep in their bones, that love, when pure, does not shame. Even the air seemed to celebrate it. Birds sang louder. Rivers sparkled brighter. And the garden itself hummed with a quiet delight that echoed into eternity. They were the first love story. Not written in books. Not sung in songs. But etched into the rhythm of life itself. A story that would whisper to every human heart ever born. Love was never meant to be broken. Love was meant to be remembered. And in the quiet of Eden, as the sun touched every leaf, every stone, every stream, they lay together in stillness. No words, no demands, no distractions. God had walked away. Not because he abandoned them, but because he had taught them something eternal. Love is discovered, not dictated. Cherished, not controlled. He would leave traces for all who came after. Lessons woven into every human longing. To seek connection. To honor design. To embrace the sacredness of union. And the man and the woman slept. And they woke. And every day was a continuation of a story. Older than time. Yet new in every breath. Two souls, made for each other. Walking together, naked, unashamed, complete. They were the blueprint. They were the first covenant of flesh and spirit. And though the world would fall, though corruption would come, the memory of this love would remain. A whisper in the hearts of all who would seek it. This is what God intended. This is what love can be. This is how we were made to walk together. And so the garden held its breath. And the story, written in bone and breath, continues to whisper. Even now, to those who would pause. Listen. And remember.